right? All right. So I'm starting the recorder. This is something that I usually do with this class unless I forget to do so. So if you guys want me to do screen recording for this class, it helps to remind me at the beginning of the class and go, well, Tech, are you recording today? Because sometimes I just kind of forget to do it. Let me just make sure. Okay, and also remind me to check whether it's recording from the right audio input, because the computer has its own mic input, and I have my USB microphone here. If I record from the wrong source, then it will be a silent movie. You can see whatever is happening, but you won't hear me talking about it when you watch it. All right. Well, I'm going to get started. I think some people will come in because of parking situation. Is it still bad, with the parking structure now, or it's pretty easy now? Okay. You just have to kind of allow for the time to, go.
It's the first few weeks. It's always bad.
It's always bad.
I park by the
I
fence.
heard, the problem is now getting into the parking lot, right? Getting into the parking structure.
Right.
There's a line that goes all the way out to College Oak and beyond.
Well, when I got here, it wasn't too bad. That was a few minutes ago, so
Oh, okay.
it shouldn't be too bad.
All right. Well,
It's
that's
parked by the fence.
good to know.
Wait, far.
All right. So what I want to do first is to kind of show you guys where to find the video recording. If you have a pencil or a pen and a piece of paper, you can just go to YouTube, okay? And the channel is SumProfs. So if you just type youtube.com/SumProfs, I think that brings you to my channel directly. Yes, it does. And once you get to my channel, down here, you don't even have to subscribe to it. You don't have to sign up and subscribe. Just click the video links here, which is the second tab. And then what it does is it shows you my video recording in a reverse order. In other words, the most recent video is always shown first. Okay, that makes it easy to find out. Okay, so what did we talk about last week, as opposed to like several weeks earlier? Because the most recent recording is always listed first. Okay, it's nothing new. Okay, I'm just recording my lecture here, so there's nothing that I'm recording at home or anything like that. So if you are here in class, most of this stuff is like, oh, okay, I was there in class. It's mostly intended for people who have just one or two little thing that I just could not remember what Tag said about blah 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 in class. Okay, so you just go to that particular portion of the lecture recording, replay it, stop it, look at the screenshot, and do whatever you need to, just to review that little portion. It's not intended for people to miss the entire class and say, I'll just watch the YouTube and I'll be fine. Okay. All right. So it's an extra resource. It's also for settling disputes like, but Tag, you said that this kind of question will not be in the exam. Did I? Well, if you can find me talking about that and say this won't be in in the exam in one of my recordings, then you have proven me wrong. Okay, it's plain easy, right? All right, so it's for your and my protection, both. Okay, I do have the sign-up sheet here, but I'll hold on to it a little bit longer, maybe until 9:30 or so. Then I'll pass it around so people can kind of initial and tell me that you're here. How many people here are not enrolled in the class? So you're trying to add to the class? Okay. Well, it looks like there's room.
A little bit.
A little bit, yes. So I will try to divert more students from my second class, which starts at 10:30, to be in this class. I mean, if you want to try out the second class, you're welcome to, but that class is full at this point. Okay, so I'm trying to get people from that class into this class right now. I do not use D2L, I use Moodle instead. So if you know how to get to D2L, it's just changing D2L to Moodle, M-O-O-D-L-E. Okay, so the URL is moodle.losrios.edu. So I'll just kind of write down here, moodle.losrios.edu. It is somewhat friendly with cell phones and mobile devices too. So if you have a mobile device and you want to kind of check your homework assignment, your grade or whatnot, you can do that. It's not going to be the same as a full screen, okay? It's not going to be the same for most websites, but you can do it. Now when you sign in, you have to sign in with your W and then 7-digit student ID. I signed in with my old ID from a long time ago. But as far as you're concerned, you have to sign in using your W and then 7-digit student ID. And then your password is the same as your password to all of the other resources. Okay, so your email account, your e-services account, they all use the same password. So just use whatever you usually use for those other accounts. And then after you sign in, you should see at the lower left corner will be your courses. Unless you're taking multiple courses in Moodle, most people only have 1 or 2. You will see all of those courses. You should only see one unless you're trying to move from one class to the other one. And it's cisp300, 2014 spring, Tuesday, Thursday, 0900, because I have 2 classes back to back, so that's how I can keep track of the 2 classes. Once you click on the class, you will get into the quote-unquote homepage of the class itself. With this class, I will put most of the material, if not everything. Excuse me, we cannot, back there. We cannot drink, sorry. Just another hour or so, okay? Okay, thank you. Okay, so I keep most of the resources on the website. That would include your homework assignment, all the notes that you're supposed to read, but there's no textbook to purchase for this class. Okay, I basically wrote everything that I think you will need for this class. And if you think that I need to kind of expand on a particular topic, let me know and I can do that. Okay, but there's no textbook to buy for this class. All right, so the first part would be the syllabus. There's one in PDF format for those of you who want to print one and keep it in your binder. Okay, not a bad idea. For those of you who just want to look at it casually or using a browser, the HTML version is more friendly. So I'm going to do that first. We'll go over the syllabus in HTML. And here is the syllabus. So we'll go ahead and just read. We'll scan through these portions here. I'm pretty sure some of these will be fairly boring, and we're not going to spend too much time to talk about it. This class is algorithm design / problem solving. We're going to do mostly explaining and applying the technique in programming, and also understanding okay, but what are the tools, what are the building blocks of a program? Okay, so we'll spend most of the time doing that. The second part is the description. It's really just what you have seen already. This course introduces methods for solving typical computer problems through algorithm design. Algorithm is just a fancy word for method. Okay, it's just a way to do something. Topics include assessing and analyzing computer problems in a top-down, divide-and-conquer approach that leads to a programming solution. I can already tell you that we'll do some of that, but before we can do that, we'll have to understand what kind of building blocks do we have in programming. I'm not specific to a particular programming language in this class. So most of what you learn in this class can be applied to C++, Java, Perl, PHP, Visual Basic, Python. You name a programming language, it probably applies. Okay, with the exception of weird languages like Lisp and Prolog and well, in a way Ada too. It also covers programming plans and detailed design documents from which source code versions of programs are created. We'll go through some of that, but not a whole lot. Student learning objectives. If you have gone through some of the other classes, this is basically what you should be able to do after the completion of this class. Okay, so I'm not going to go through this list here because some of these, we have not talked about. Most we have not talked about yet, so it doesn't make a whole lot of sense to talk about it now. There are 3 units for this class, 54 lecture hours. Does anyone know the expected amount of time that you have to spend on a class, a 3-unit class? How much time, the college or the district expects people to spend on a per unit basis? 3 hours per unit. Or 3 hours, okay, if you spend 1 hour in a lecture, you're supposed to spend 2 additional hours on your own in terms of studying, doing homework, and so on. Okay, but that's just an expectation. There are people who can spend like half an hour and be done with everything. And there might be people who have to spend 3 hours on top of the lecture hour. So, you kind of have to gauge, how much time you need for a class like this. This is information about myself. My name is Tak. Last name is Aoyong. It's a British way to approximate my Cantonese last name. So it's really just kind of weird and difficult to pronounce. For a good reason. English lacks certain types of sounds, okay, in Cantonese. So it's just an approximation. Just call me Tak. That's easier. My office is number 7 in Liberal Arts 133. 133 is just one aisle on that side. Okay, one aisle to the south of this building. My office hours, I have changed it, so the chart by my door is inaccurate. It's basically just 8 to 9 on Monday through Thursdays, which is right before this class. So it's really friendly to students in this particular class. I don't have any in-office hour on Friday, so it's called online office hour. Phone number is 484-8250. If I'm not in the office and you leave a message, it actually gets to send. It's actually sent to my Exchange email address. So if you leave a phone message, it's actually sent to me by email, which is really great because I don't have to call back to the office to find out who has called me. I use my Gmail account for my classes. So this way I have one account per semester. It's easier to manage stuff like this. Online classroom, we talked about it already. It's moodle.lawschools.edu. Are there any questions on this slide?
Where do we find it? Like for later working and find it on the Moodle?
Yes, it is all from Moodle. So once you sign into Moodle, you can go to either link of the syllabus. I'm clicking the second link, which is the HTML. But if you want to print one out, the PDF version is probably prints out prettier that way. All right, so let's move on. This particular section meets from 9 to 10:20 in room 121, and our final exam is already scheduled. It is on May 20th from 8 o'clock to 10 o'clock. So you might want to put this on your calendar and make sure that you have that block of time open for our final exam. Any questions at this point? Yep, go ahead.
I already know that I can't make it here at 8 o'clock.
Okay. So at the end of the semester, we'll talk about it. You can probably take it earlier, okay, like a day earlier or something like that. All right, so let's move on and talk about class policies and rules and stuff like that. All policies of this class are extensions to the ones already imposed by the district and the college itself. You are expected to have read college enrollment basics when you acknowledge having read this syllabus. So let's just right-click here and go to that portion. So has anyone read this particular document? When you sign up for classes, there's a link to this document. Nope. Okay, so let's go ahead and find out. It talks about a lot of useful stuff, but what I want to get to. it has a lot of useful information. It's not really just your rules that we all have to play by. It also explains what rights you have as a student on this campus. So you might want to read it, just to understand, what your responsibilities are and what rights do you have on this campus. For instance, smoking policy. If you find someone smoking inside a building, it's not supposed to happen. Okay, not inside any building. Okay, no smoking policy, applies to any building, and people can only smoke at 30 feet or further from any entrances. Okay, so here we have student rights and responsibilities. So you might want to read it because there's a lot of information here. In other words, if I wrongfully accuse you of something, okay, cheating, copying homework, or whatever, okay, what can you do about it? Okay, you don't have to take it if you did not do it, right? So what kind of procedures, what kind of steps can you take, to voice your protest? Okay, it kind of explains that too. So it's useful information. So particularly that's what we call the student grievance policy. All right, so getting back to here, so you need to read that part. There are only 3 types of excuses that that is mandatory that I have to accept. The first one is you are sick. Okay, you cannot come to class, you're contagious, so you have to stay home. But in that case, I really want to have a doctor's note, okay, to bring to me. You can make a photocopy of it, use your cell phone, take a picture, send it to me, that's fine. But I really need to have some sort of documentation of you being sick, or at least unfit for classes. There are nurses on campus. In other words, if you feel sick on campus, let's say it's a Monday, okay, Monday evening or Monday afternoon, you kind of feel I'm not feeling great, I might have a fever. You can actually go to the nurses station here on campus. I think it's called Health Services, and have our nurse to take a look at you, measure your temperature, and then have that nurse to write you a note and say, well, this student is not fit for class, the next day or for the next 2 days or so, and bring that note to me, or send me a photocopy of that note, and then I can excuse you. Okay, so that's a resource on campus that you can use. We have if you're on jury duty, okay, you can photocopy the summon to me. You can block out stuff that you don't want me to know, except just for your name, and that's fine. Okay, because serving in a jury is a duty. It's a duty of a citizen. And the last one is obvious too. If you are called for military duty, you just send me a note of your. You just send me a copy of your notice, and that can be excused as well. Okay. Is anyone here active? Nope. Okay. Attendance policy. Now this part is quoted from the college catalog as well. College students are expected to attend all sessions of their courses. Now we all know that it is not really always possible to attend all sessions of the course. Sometimes I have to take one session off because there's certain things I have to do, I'm sick, or stuff like that. But let's see what is excessive. Excessive absence may result in the student being dropped from class by the instructor. A student may be dropped from any class when that student's absences exceed 6% of the total hours of class time. 6%. Now this class meets 16 weeks, right? This is a 16-week class, full semester. What is 6% of 16 weeks? No. Okay, let's do some calculations here. So we'll fire up the calculator. Okay, we got 16 weeks and 6% of that. It's less than a week. So I'll round it up to a week. So that means, we have, you are allowed 2 unexcused absences before being dropped. If it's excused, it does not count to one of these 2. Okay? Are there any questions about this part? So that's important because I keep track of attendance. And this part is also from the catalog. If a student is absent because of illness verified by the health center or personal physician, the absence must be excused and the student allowed to make up work missed. So that's part of the college catalog too. If there are no questions about this, we'll move on. Okay, so there are other regulations regarding the attendance of the Los Rios Community College District. So let's open another tab to take a look at this. Non-attendance at first class. Students who fail to attend the first session of a class may be dropped by the instructor. Well, do you have to worry about this? No. Unless you're watching it from YouTube, right? there might be people like that, right? They're just watching it from YouTube, go like, don't. Excessive absence defined, this part we talked about it already. I just want to show you this so that you know that I did not make it up, right? I mean, it's like TAC makes it, make this up. Okay, 6% is considered excessive, and instructor shall state in each course syllabus what constitutes excessive absence for that course, which I just did. No shows. Students who have not attended at least one of the first 3 sessions will be dropped as a no-show following the 3rd session of the class. This sentence is actually ambiguous. Well, since this is a programming class, we focus on logic a lot. Okay, so can anyone see how this sentence here, 3.1, is actually ambiguous? Okay, let me just read it again. Students who have not attended at least one of the first 3 sessions of a class, blah, 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 blah. Okay. Yep.
You're only allowed 2 unexcused. So if you don't, that would give you 3.
Well,
If you miss one, you automatically, if you only go to one, you automatically miss 2.
right. So the question is, does the rule apply to students who missed 1 class, or does it apply to students who missed 2 classes? In other words, does it say that students have to attend, at least one of the first 3 sessions, or does it apply to students who
Students who've missed any class after the first session.
who missed at least one, right? So they could have
Required to
phrased
go
it
to
a
the
little bit
first
differently.
class.
Well,
Yeah.
I see that there could be some confusion, but it seems fairly clear that they're saying that if you missed any one of the first 3 sessions, that's reasonably dropped.
Right.
But it's a little strange.
It leaves some room for an alternative interpretation.
Yeah.
Well, if you miss the first class, you get dropped.
Yes. So that part is applied already, but it also
Yeah.
means in the next 2 sessions you cannot miss any one of those. So within the first 3 sessions you have to attend all 3, even though there may be allowed unexcused absences later on. Okay. You can see how sometimes even lawyers, cannot write, stuff in a logical way.
Yeah.
But lawyers are more, I don't think they're really trained for logic, but they're more trained to look at one case, look at another case, and then apply, those, previous cases to a current case and argue that it applies. Which is useful sometimes. It's good use of argumentative skills, but not always logical. I hope there are no lawyers in this class who just kind of no. I'm not opposing to the profession itself. I'm just hoping that I'm not offending anyone in the law profession. How soon to report an excuse is as soon as possible. Okay, just let me know as soon as possible. Just because those are the only 3 types of excuses that I have to accept doesn't mean that those are the only excuses that I will accept. Okay, I understand sometimes your car breaks down. Okay, you might get a flat tire. Your kids are sick. I have kids. So I definitely understand. If your kid has a fever and have to stay home, and you cannot find anyone else to stay home with the kid, you have to stay home. I mean, I'm not going to count that against you. But it's still, but I will approve those excuses on a case-by-case basis. Okay, so they're not, always going to be approved. So in those cases, particularly if you have a flat tire and you cannot get to campus on time or your car would not start, contact me as soon as possible. Don't wait until the next class meeting and then say, oh, you know what, I missed the previous class because blah, blah, blah. If your car breaks down, definitely take care of the car first, tow it, fix the flat tire. But as soon as you have time, contact me and let me know that you could not come to class, on that particular day because of these particular reasons. So that's 4.2.3. It just talks about what to do with the other reasons. You're not sick, but your kid is sick, or your parent is sick, and you have to stay home. Attendance for online classes doesn't apply to this class. This is a face-to-face class. It's mandatory. Attendance will be checked using my row sheet. Okay, let's move on. Classroom and lab behavior, mostly common sense, but unfortunately, sometimes I still have to kind of go over these one by one. Okay, so here's the row sheet. Since some of you are adding to the class, you will not find your name, in the enrolled part. So if you cannot find your name in the enrolled part, just add your name here and then put your initial at the right column. The columns are, have a date on it. So today is the 21st. You just need to initial. You don't have to sign your full name. That's not enough space for most people to sign. Classrooms and labs are facilities provided only for the scheduled and intended coursework, which means, in this particular classroom, it is intended for cisp300, so we should use this classroom only for that purpose. Does that mean that if I catch anyone, working on the calculus homework, that I will say, now, you cannot do that in this classroom? No, not really, because I'm not going to be checking, right? I'm not going to walk over and see, okay, are you doing homework for the other classes? If it doesn't bother other people, it's okay with me, okay? But staying focused in this class for our class material is only going to be beneficial to you as a student, okay? Now, on the other hand, if someone says, well, if that guy can do homework assignments in the calculus class, can I practice my archery skills? No. The answer is no, okay? Any behavior in the classroom or lab that interferes with teaching or learning is not tolerated. For instance, practicing archery skills in a classroom like this. This includes disruption, bullying, excessive chatting, and etc. So chatting is kind of I can understand sometimes why some students want to talk to the person next to him or her. It's not to chat per se, but it's like, well, what did Ted just say? To clarify, concepts that I was, talking about. In those cases, just raise your hand and let me know. Okay, just raise your hand, let me know. I didn't quite get, what you said a little bit earlier. Could you repeat that? Okay, instead of asking the student next to you. Because if you ask the student next to you, then the other student will be missing what I will be talking about at that point. Okay, so it's better to just raise your hand and let me know, then I can go over that again. Okay. This one is funny because I actually had people, one person actually, only one student, who brought in a dog, okay, a pet dog. Okay, so it's not a working dog, it's a pet. And the dog, unlike working dogs, which usually are well behaved, and they just kind of disappeared. Okay, I have had people who bring in sight dogs and other types of helper dogs, and they're so well trained. Once they brought it in, it just kind of lays down and it just disappears. You don't even notice there's a dog in the classroom. This one is a little bit different. It keeps panting. It's kind of like a heavy-set dog, so it was panting really heavily, during the entire class, and it would turn around and lick the student behind the dog. So it was definitely disruptive, and that's why no pets. Working dogs are okay, but pets no. Cell phones ringing, especially those with interesting ringtones. I turn off my cell phone. And I know a lot of people have concerns about, but what if I turn it off and forget to turn it back on again, right? I use this app here called Tasker. And it's really helpful because what it does, it's not muting. It's supposed to. It's called Tasker, and Tasker is kind of like has a fully programmable interface. Yep, it is active. So when you silence your phone using this particular program, you program, how long or from what time to what time it's supposed to be silent, and then it will turn the ringer back on after that period of time. And you can also program it for a variety of things. You can turn off the Wi-Fi, you can turn off the radio, and so on and so forth. So I find this particular app, really useful. You have to pay like $2 for it on an Android device, but I find it really useful. No eating or drinking is permitted in the classroom. We have a sign in the back of the classroom for that. Food and drink items are to be sealed or closed during a lecture or a lab session. You can bring it in, but you cannot, open it and drink it. In this particular classroom, I make one exception for plain water. Okay, if you just have drinking water, like that, that's perfectly okay. Because in case of a spill, it just dries up and it doesn't leave anything behind. On the other hand, if you have coffee or anything that's kind of sugary, then it takes a little bit of work to clean it up afterwards. Non-compliant students, yep, go ahead.
I am actually enrolled as of like 8:30 this morning, but
Yeah, the roster unfortunately does not update, so just write down your name, and then the next time I print the roster, it will have your name in the enrolled part. So this part talks about non-compliant students we've asked to leave the classroom. I usually would give people at least a few warnings, depending on what that person is doing. But if it's just chatting, it really will. I will give people a few warnings before I have to ask someone to leave. Conduct code in 4.4 mostly has to do with academic dishonesty. So this part is out of the catalog as well. Okay, so you might want to read that part too. Academic dishonesty is an act of deception in which the student claims credit for work or effort of another person or uses unauthorized material or fabricated information in any academic work. It occurs when students participating in any activity attempt to show possession of a level of competency, knowledge, or skill that they do not possess. Okay? In other words, it does not explain how it is done. It just explains, the intention and also, certain other characteristics of the act. So any cases like that will be reported to administration, which is my boss, the dean, and accumulation of reported attempts, possibly from multiple classes, can lead to expulsion from the college. All participants involved in the Dishonesty Act do not receive points for the work submitted, and this includes the person or people who originated the material but willingly, actively, or otherwise knowingly involved in the attempt. Activities involving academic dishonesty do not count for attendance. The instructor may ask suspects to do additional work or explain submitted work in order to determine the legitimacy of submitted work. These are all here because I have had, incidents, in the past. So it's, I'm just kind of adding all of those here. And by default, in this class, all work are expected to be completed independently, which means without the aid of someone else, and originally without deriving from the work of others. I can retroactively re-examine submitted and graded work for evidence of dishonesty, and as a result, I can adjust grades accordingly depending on what I find. But you also have a process, called student grievance process. So if I wrongfully accuse you of anything, you know what to do. Okay, and I try my best not to do anything like that, or I would contact people that I say, well, this is kind of suspicious. Can you explain to me how this happens? Okay. All right. So now we are on to section 5, grading. Letter grade equivalency in this class is funny. Anyone who gets less than 12.5% gets an F. I think that's probably nobody's going to object to that. Okay, if you get 1/8, less than 1/8 of all the points possible in the class, that person is going to get an F. From 12.5% up to 37.5% is a D. From 37.5% to 62.5% is a C. So a C is not that many points, okay? It's just, from 37.5% to 62.5% is a C. A B is from 62.5% to 87.5%, and then an A is 87.5% or more. Okay, that's how the grades are broken down in this class. But I have to say the grade distribution of my classes are typically very much in line with other classes. In other words, the number of people, the proportion of people getting A, B, C, D, F is about the same as the other cisp300 classes. Okay, the only reason is, I don't ask easy questions. So there's nothing to pad the first 60% of the grade. Okay, so in this class we have 4 components to your final grade. All the homework assignments add up to 20%. Okay, there will be about, I would say about 8 or so homework assignments, 8 to 12 homework assignments, but they add up to 20% of your final grade. The final exam itself is 40% of your final grade, which is a good chunk. The first exam, which is usually about 1/3 through the class, is 20%, and then the second exam is also going to be another 20%. So most of your grade, 80%, comes from assessment, like the exams, and only 20% comes from homework assignments. Okay, but it is extremely important to do your homework assignment, even though it only constitutes 20% of your final grade, because that's how you learn the material and prepares you for the final exams and also the other 2 midterms. And coincidentally, I'm surprised that no one has pointed out yet, if anyone missed all the homework assignments, get a 0 in the first and the second exam, can still pass the class with a C, because the final exam by itself is 40%, right? And how many percent do you need to get a C out of this class? 37.5%, right? So someone can ace the final exam and still get the C out of this class. I have not had anyone attempted that yet. Or no one has successfully, accomplished that. Okay, not turning in any homework assignments, flunk the first test, flunk the second test, and ace the final exam. And this is not a challenge. I'm not challenging anyone to say, I'll be the first one who can do it. Don't do it. It's not worth it. Grading FAQs score is assigned based on observable academic competence and not effort. In other words, I can understand some people may spend a lot of time in the class material and still not be getting a very good grade. Unfortunately, I can only the score reflect what I can see from homework assignments and the tests, not how much time someone is spending in the class. It's kind of like if I spend a lot of time practicing basketball, would that get me into NBA to become an NBA player? Probably not.
Yeah.
But I spend a lot of time. I spend more time than any other NBA players. Well, it doesn't matter, right? Because if I cannot do it, I cannot do it. We are not, well, I'm trying to stay away from multiple choice questions in a class like this, but I'm still changing and adjusting what kind of question I'll be asking in the exams. Some questions are graded based on key indicators, which are objective, observable characteristics of the submitted work. So I try my best to make it very clear, how many points are, allocated here, how many points are allocated over there, and how do you get, points, at those places. There is, bad grammar here. There is no late submission. Submissions after due date do not count or are not permitted unless covered by an excuse. Okay, so in the case of a sickness, jury duty, or military duty, then people can turn in homework late. All right. think that's almost all of it. So we have the tentative schedule. Oh, okay, there's a little bit more. Okay, how to help a fellow student. Now, I'm not sure about this class. Every class is a little bit different, but there are classes where students like to study together and kind of help out each other during the time when they're studying. That is highly encouraged. Okay, because I find that when students or myself too, when people study together, we actually become more effective. Okay, but that only works when no one in the group is trying to freeload other people, right? But if several people, they're all studying, they're trying their best, and they try to study together, sometimes it helps, because when a particular person does not understand a particular concept, the other person or the other people in the group may have a better understanding and try to explain it. Now, one thing about studying is when you try to explain a concept to somebody else, it makes you understand that concept even better. Okay, so that's why helping other students studying together is actually encouraged. Now, when does helping a friend become academic dishonesty? Where's that line? Is there a line? Is it kind of like, oh, that's kind of fuzzy. I cannot tell, when it's helping and when it's cheating. Is there a clear line in the sand, and say, well, if it's this way, it's okay. If it's the other way, it's not. Does anyone want to think about it and let me know what you think?
The answers are the same.
Well,
when it's like the identical, the steps and everything.
well, it happens, but it is still possible. Okay, if two students may not even be studying together, and they can end up with the same answer in the same steps, and they're wrong exactly the same way. It's possible, right? Okay, so it crosses the line when one person, at least one party, is demonstrating a skill, knowledge, or competency that person does not possess. Okay? In other words, I can have two students, unrelated, have never studied together, not sitting next to each other. They can turn in some work that is identical. Okay, it's wrong exactly the same way, but each one works on it independently without the aid of other people, and originally without deriving from the work of other people. Okay, that's entirely possible. Okay, it depends. Okay, sometimes it's not probable. Sometimes it's like possible, because I have graded enough exams from classes like this to understand there are certain things that are easy to misunderstand. Okay, and many people can misunderstand exactly the same way, and therefore they turn in the same type of wrong answer. But it's not the same when someone, if I give a test afterwards, okay, and make sure that people are not sitting together anymore, if they still turn in the same wrong answer, everything is okay. On the other hand, if in the test, two people turn in identical answers, but in the follow-up test, okay, they turn in completely different type of answers, then I have questions, right? Okay.
Is that part of why you have the section that says you can go back retroactively? Is that part of?
Right. Then I can go back and take a look and see if I can find any evidence. I cannot. I don't do things just by allegation. That I suspect something is going on. So I try to find actual proof. That I can say, well, this is very improbable to happen. Yep. So that's basically what this slide is talking about. Is studying together is okay. I can already tell you, exams in this class, they're all open book, open notes. You can study together, work on the same, cheat sheet, quote unquote cheat sheet. They're not really cheat sheets because, I let you bring in anything you want that is either handwritten or printed prior to the test. Okay, so you can study together and, bring in, notes that you have worked on together. Okay. Because I think programming is not about memorization, it's about understanding the concepts and be able to apply those concepts. If you waste all your brain juice memorizing something, then it's a waste of your resources. There are very few occupations that I can think of that requires actual memorization. Okay, being a surgeon is one. You open up somebody and go like, I kind of forgot, which artery I'm supposed to to clip here. Nurse, iPad. Oh, okay, I think that's the one. Maybe. But in terms of programming, you're sitting usually in front of a computer anyway, right? So if you need to look up, how to use a particular function, the syntax of a programming language, it's no big deal. I mean, that's okay. Study habits, for this class, I know most of you are, veteran students already, and you don't really need to be reminded how to study. Attend classes first, okay? That's really, really important. It depends on the person too, it depends on the professor as well. When I was in college, I seldom take notes or even read a book because I can absorb most of the material in the class. Second, pay attention in class. Just being in class doesn't mean people are paying attention. So bring something to take notes. Okay, I can see most of you have a pen, have notebooks in front of you. That's useful because even though I am recording everything and you can re-watch everything that I say, well, you can hear everything that I say with the screen. Okay, screen capture on YouTube. There are certain things that you cannot rerun. Okay, and that's the process that's going on in your head right now. So there are things that I'll be talking about, but you understand it in a different way, or you push it one level further. It's helpful to write down the notes. Okay, write down some notes. Some students also write down timestamps. When I talk about a particular topic, oh, okay, Tech is starting to talk about subroutines now, and it's approximately 15 minutes into the lecture. Now that's really helpful because if you want to re-watch the YouTube video, you don't want to watch from start to finish just to locate the 5 minutes that you want to watch again. So if you do a time index in your notes, it really helps you to find that little clip faster because you don't have to watch the whole thing or scan through it. Okay. Reading what I will be talking about before a lecture will certainly help. Now, you may be thinking, if I'm just reading it, what if I don't understand 100% what I'm writing? Well, that's okay, because I just want you to understand approximately what I'll be talking about, what kind of concept I'll be talking about, okay? If you're reading ahead of me and you have some questions, write it down, okay? So when I talk about that topic in class, then you can raise your hand and say, okay, I just read this portion, but I have a question, okay? So that would be helpful. And then after each lecture, it is really helpful to kind of revisit the topics that we just talked about and make sure that everything is okay. Because if it's not okay, you can come to my office hour and ask me questions. When I give you homework assignments, you should start as early as possible because does starting late on homework assignments reduce the amount of work? No. Procrastination doesn't help. We all procrastinate. I can kind of understand that because I sometimes will procrastinate as well. But try to start as early as possible because when you're done, you're done. You don't have to worry about it. And it also gives you the time to ask questions. The typical due date of a homework assignment is 1 week, which means from the time the homework is assigned, which is usually at the beginning of a class, to the time when it's due, which is right before the class starts the following week, we have at least 2 class sessions. So if you start to work on it right away and you have a question about the homework, it's like, well, I'm not quite sure how to do this step, or you have not talked about it in class, sometimes that happens too, in class, then you have a second class to ask that question before the homework is due. So that's why you want to get started with your homework as early as possible so that you have a chance to ask questions before the due date. After an homework assignment is due, study my solution. I always go through a homework assignment on the day that it is due. Okay? In other words, You may not get a score, you may not get a point value right away, but at least you will know what the correct answer is. Okay, and that's helpful, okay, because you can compare your answer to my answer, and then you can ask the question. If they're not the same, then you have to ask the question, why are they different? Okay. Now, in a class like this, there's always the right answer and the wrong answer. It's not an English writing class, okay, where you cannot usually say, well, this is the only right way to say something or to write about something. But in a class like this, there's only one right answer, okay? So if your answer is different from mine, you have to look for the differences and then try to explain why is there a difference. Occasionally, I make a mistake, and that's why they're different, okay? Most of the time I don't, but sometimes I do. So try to do that. Compare your answer to mine and find out why they're different. I also use a lot of examples in class that are not in my notes. So you might want to review those particular examples. I used to save the examples in files and upload it to the server later on, but I'm not going to do that anymore because I think in the process of going through the YouTube video and reproducing the examples, it's helpful already. It's instead of just opening a file and everything is already there, you have to do some work, to rework the examples that I go through in class. Okay, that's section 6, and section 7 is just the tentative schedule of this class. And these dates are definitely just tentative. Sometimes I go a little bit faster, sometimes I get a little bit slower. But by the end of the semester, we should be able to cover all the core concepts for this class. And you'll be ready for cisp 360. All right, so that's the syllabus. Are there any questions about the syllabus? Questions? All right. So your first quote-unquote homework assignment is to log into Moodle and go to this, what we call a syllabus acknowledgement. It's in the form of a test, but it's not really a test. I will show you a preview of the question. Okay, so if you are to go there, this is the question that you'll see. This activity lets you acknowledge that you know where to find the syllabus and that you have visited the links, read and understood the syllabus. Do not submit this choice until you have done all of the above. And here are the links. These links are actually in wrong links, so I'm going to have to update that. You have two choices. Select one. I, the student of this course, I the student of, oh man, this is bad grammar on my part. A student of this particular question, in the course of this question, acknowledge that I know where to find the syllabus and I have read and understood the content of the syllabus in its entirety. Or B, I refuse to acknowledge. Please drop me from the course. And I would do that. If someone requests, I want to drop from the class. Okay, that's okay, I can do that. So do this, when you have time. We don't have to do it like right away, but but you might want to actually read the entire thing first, okay, just to know what you're acknowledging. Are there any questions at this point? Okay, if there are no questions at this point, I'm going to do something here, so because I forgot to do it a little bit earlier. Yep, go ahead. Can you go? Oh, you need to go to another class?
No, I have the important work.
Oh, you need to leave the classroom?
Yes.
Yeah, go ahead. Yep, absolutely. No, I did. Okay, self-enrollment. Okay, so here, okay, for those of you who are not officially enrolled in the class, you're just added to the class, you do not have access to Moodle right away because I only have people who are currently enrolled in class in Moodle. So what you want to do, let me just finish this part here and do the configuration. So for those of you who are trying to add to the class, Once you add to the class, you will definitely be a part of Moodle. But before you are a part of the class or you're on roster in this class, what you can do is to log into Moodle, okay, even though you're not enrolled. Look for this class, it's under CISP, and click it. So what at one point it will ask you for a password to self-enroll in this class. The password is this. Okay? So you want to write that down if you're not already on roster. If you're on roster already, you don't have to worry about a single thing. And as far as I can see, there are only 3 people who had to write down their name, and I think only one is really on the wait list because, yep.
So if we're enrolled this morning and it's not on your roster yet, do we still need to do self-enroll?
Or you can wait a day. Okay,
Oh.
If you wait a day tomorrow at about 8:30 or so, you should be a part of Moodle already
Okay.
at that point. But if you don't want to wait, you can go through this process too.
Okay.
So it's up to you.
Okay.
Yep. All right. So I think I got all the non-topic stuff out of the way. And so it's time to get started with topic 1. Well, before we start on topic 1, let me ask one question. Why are you here? I mean here in this class, not the more philosophical version of that question. So why are you in cisp300? Why are you taking cisp300? How many people are here because you want to get the computer science transfer degree? Okay, all right. And the rest, why are you here?
For the programming.
Okay, you want to get a programming certificate? I strongly encourage you to take a look at least at the computer science transfer degree. I know the certificate is shorter, it doesn't take as much time, but the transfer degree gives you the ability, if you choose, you can transfer to a CSU or a UC upon completion of the transfer degree.
So, when you transfer with the degree from here, what benefit does that give you? Like a CSU at school like that? Do you start as a junior? Up
Yes,
there,
you
or?
basically start on their in their 3rd year.
Okay.
For those of you who do not know, your counselor usually would cover these things too, but you can also go to assist.org, which I think soon will be kind of obsolete, because the way we are changing the articulation process. But assist.org, as far as we are concerned, it is still useful at this point. It's a huge database that explains and displays articulation agreements between community colleges and UCs and CSUs. In other words, it tells you what classes you can take here that will be considered equivalent to what classes at a CSU or a UC campus. Okay? And it's not just, universal to all CSUs or universal to all the UCs. It's on a per campus basis. Okay? So I can just give you an illustration here. So let's say we are from American River College, and then you can choose agreement with other campuses. So let's say, Sac State, okay, which is a fairly common choice for people here. It's a little bit slow today.
Can you also do it by major?
Yes. You can also do it by major, by CID discipline.
That's definitely slower today.
It is really slow.
Faster.
Okay, let's try again.
I don't know. Usually it looks different on my computer.
On your computer?
Yeah, usually I go through a new major and then
Yeah.
stuff like that.
Yeah.
But I've had this work too. Seems to be finicky.
It is finicky.
I can't even see the other option now.
Well, there's the CID now. You can also search by discipline, so you can go to computer science. I think it's going to be the same. You know, it's still
Yeah.
slow. It's probably a problem on their end and not here.
But this is a good website for this stuff.
Yep,
now.
it's a good, very good website, but it also helps to identify, you know, what type of classes, you know, would be you can take here. Then you don't have to take it over there.
Exactly.
Yep. It saves you some money because I think you know it's still less expensive to take classes here compared to Saxton
Yeah.
or UC Davis. Oh, okay. Finally, it shows up. Okay, so this is CID based on CID. So let's see if I can just search by campus first. If a current articulation is not available, let's try UC Davis. But anyway, oh, there we go. So if I want to go from ARC to UC Davis, I can now choose a major. So let's say, well, let's pick something not computer science. Let's pick
Yeah.
electrical engineering.
Industrial engineering?
Hmm?
Industrial?
Industrial? Oh, let's see if it's here. No, they don't have it. They don't have industrial engineering, but they do have computer. Sorry?
Human development.
Human development. I don't think that has any computer science classes.
Yeah, it's just.
Just
yeah.
as an
does.
example, math. Okay, yeah, math does too. So
Oh,
let's
okay.
try math, and this time we'll go for BS. It's still slow.
Yeah.
Usually, it just comes back like within a second.
It's not.
Well, anyway, that's
it's
why
not
I'm
popping
here.
up as fast on my phone either.
Uh-huh.
This is still
It's definitely something on there. So one of
Yeah.
the concerns I have about the transfer degree is that the CSUs and the UCs are constantly changing the agreements between schools and stuff like that.
Well,
But is
then-
computer science a little more stable than some other places?
That's true, but something new is coming. You know, with the concept of a transfer degree from community colleges, if I understand correctly, what it does is if you get your computer science transfer degree and you apply to transfer to ACSU, okay, then at least one CSU has to accept you. So you will be able to specify your priorities, like I want to go to San Luis Obispo, first choice. Second choice, Sac State. Third choice, San Jose State. Okay. So what happens is, they would look at the people with the transfer degree and look at, possibly a number of factors like GPA and whatnot, and they would come up with a ranking. So they would go to the first rank and say, okay, which school do you want to go to? What is your first choice? Well, okay, because you're the first person on the list, obviously you would get the first choice, right? So they would basically fill up, those spots, using this method. So by the time it gets to the later, people later on the list, lower down on the list, if the first choice is all taken up, that university, that CSU, has no spots left, then they move on to, okay, what's your second choice? And if the second choice is all filled up, then we look at the third choice.
Okay.
So if I understand correctly, this is what happens. So that really takes away, all this stuff here, because, it's no longer a campus-to-campus articulation. It is a system-to-system articulation
That's nice.
with the transfer degree.
Okay.
But it's still in the works because we are still working on the program. So that's why, when you guys are done, okay, if you're starting with this class at this point, when you are done, I would assume that the transfer degree will work at that point the way it's intended. But you might still have to deal with the old system where we have campus-to-campus articulation. So if you're dealing with campus-to-campus articulation, this is what you have to look at. Is basically, at UC Davis, Calculus 21A is equivalent to our Calculus 1 Math 400 here. So if you take Math 400 at AR, then not only do you transfer the units over, unit for unit, but you're also going to have the equivalence of having taken Math 21A over there. Okay. And they also have requirements in terms of computer science classes, but it's not listed. Oh, it is listed here. So 360 transfer to CS 30 or engineering 30 over there. And this class is cisp300 because it's the prerequisite of cisp360. So how many people here are trying to get a degree that is not computer science? Math, engineering, math, okay. Engineering, industrial engineering, math also. So why do you think in a math major, they want you to take at least one programming class?
Because it requires logic. So a lot of math that you do, it requires you to understand logic as well. You kind of go.
Okay, they kind of go hand in
You don't have to necessarily be good at
hand.
math to be a programmer, but it's good to understand logic in order to get to a certain result.
Well, that certainly is one point. Yep.
Kind of to add onto that, a lot of the concepts in math were used to build programming, but programming adds kind of a human English element, so you have a secondary way of understanding math concepts and kind of
Okay.
just a new way to look at it. I feel like
So from
functions
the-
back and forth are really helpful.
So from the academics perspective, the two fields are closely related. Okay, as we'll see later on in this class, there are people, early computer science, people who believe that computer science should be a branch of mathematics. Okay, every computer scientist should be a mathematician first. Okay, it's a specialization of mathematics, and there is a particular reason why that is the case, why people think that way. But in terms of math, in terms of pragmatic reasons why they put CISP 360 here as a required course to get your math degree, there's a pragmatic side to it too. Okay, so after you get your math BS, what are you gonna do?
You're gonna program, probably.
I'm gonna teach.
You're gonna teach. Okay, but there are other people who want to do something else with their math degrees. Okay, can anyone kind of think about what people can do with a math degree? There was one point in time when people would say, "Oh, it's useless to get a math degree," but it is not anymore. Go ahead.
An actuary.
And what is that?
Like somebody, it's like, I think it's a scientist, but some people don't think so. But it's basically like somebody that spends their whole life proving things.
Okay.
You know what I mean?
Oh,
And there are mathematical proofs now that are computer assisted.
They estimate the cost, right? of
Yeah.
the job.
Yeah, they estimate cost and stuff like that as well. But yeah, they just spend their whole life proving numbers, which
Okay.
I'm not interested. But
It's interesting though.
I guess it's like today's mathematicians, because what can you do just being a mathematician?
Well, this would be another website that you should go to as soon as I can get it there. Come on. Oh. Is the network down?
It
No.
says it's not compatible with Google Chrome.
Cannot connect. That would be a problem if the government website is down.
Oh, okay.
There we go. Really weird. All right. So, if you don't know what a math major can do, or if you don't know all the possibilities, because you want to understand the possibilities. I know you want to teach, but besides teaching, are there any other possibilities? What are your options? So here is a good way to find out. You can go to applications, students. Okay, let me see. Wages by area and occupation. That certainly is a good motivator. But they have one that explains, different types of employments. Let's go with that first. Yeah, you can find out, how much you're paying, how much you will be paid, as a mathematician. But there's another one, career information for kids. Not that? Occupation Outlook. There we go. All right, there we go. Occupation, under occupations, you can go to Occupational Outlook Handbook, quarterly employment, wages, projections. Okay, let's look at projections. And then they changed the website a little bit compared to last time I was here. Okay, there we go. So under occupational groups, computer science and information technology is one, and math is another one. So you can go to math, and well, there's your actuary. Analyzes the financial causes of risk and uncertainty. They use mathematics, statistics, and financial theory to assess the risk that the event will occur and help business and clients develop policies that minimize the cost of that risk. Okay, so if you look at the job description, do you think a computer or a spreadsheet, running on the computer may be helpful?
Yeah, oh yeah.
Yep. Well, if you just look at statistics, okay, are you going to calculate the mean, the standard deviation by hand, or will you feed all the data into a program and let the program finish the calculations, right? And also advanced math to develop and understand mathematical principles, analyze data. Okay, do you think that part will be done manually or done by computers? Probably done by computers, okay? Because if anything can be done by hand, it's probably not worth hiring a person to do. Operations research, use advanced mathematical and analytical methods to help organizations investigate complex issues, identify and solve problems, and make better solutions. Okay, I think that spells programming as well. And then we have statisticians. Use statistical methods to collect and analyze data, and so on and so forth. So almost every single one of these can involve the use of computers. Okay, so that's partially why, as a mathematician, it is helpful to know how to program, or at least understand programming concepts. And you are in engineering, right? Industrial engineering?
Yeah, industrial systems engineering.
Okay, so do you know why you need to take computer science classes? Or at least understand how to program?
So yeah, to use technology and industrial stuff.
Yep. Well, how do you think plants in industry run? I mean, how are they running?
There's a lot of stuff inside the industry, technology instead of people working.
Mm-hmm.
So we use technology, programming to do everything.
Well, you have programming to automate the process, but you can also use computers to figure out, what is the optimal level of doing something. Okay? If you're a factory producing something, okay, you need raw material, right? So one of the questions is, how much raw material should you stock? Okay, should you purchase ahead of time? Now, if you don't have enough, stock on hand, then sometimes you have to stop production because we just ran out of blah, blah, blah. Then you stop the plan, you wait for the shipment, then you can start again. Okay, so it's not ideal, okay, because you're wasting your rent and you're wasting a lot of resources. But it doesn't help if you stock too much either, right? If you stock too much and then the production says, well, we're gonna have to wind down the production of this product, then you have stuff sitting in your stock room not getting utilized, and you pay for that stuff too, right? So there are programs, computer programs, that can help you determine, okay, what is the right level of stuff to stock, and you can also use a program to automatically remind you to restock. And I think with some supply chains, they can automatically, restock, automatically if they can link the vendor's website to your computer system. They can automatically know it and say, oh, okay, I know you're running low on this part. It's time to ship you, some additional parts. Okay. So that's why, programming is useful. All right. Are you guys in the second class or this class?
10:30.
10:30? We're still in the 9 o'clock class right now. Sorry. All right. we still have about 3 more minutes to go. So I want you guys to read ahead of me. Okay, let me show you where we are at this point here. We are currently in topic 1, and we are just going to start to talk about developers and algorithms. In other words, I just want to explain what a developer is and what an algorithm is in computer science. Okay, so all the basic terms, there's nothing really too technical, with that particular slide. So read ahead of me so that we can talk about it on Thursday. If you have any questions about, what a developer is or what an algorithm is, or any type of questions related to that, bring it on Thursday. Okay. Since we still have 2 minutes left or 3 minutes left, I'll just go ahead and take a look at that slide. And it won't show. Well, good thing I checked because it's not showing up. I have to change one of these settings to make it show up. Just hold on 1 second. There we go. Okay, so basically what this particular document will talk about is what is software, because development applies to the software component of a computer, and we'll also talk about why it is becoming more and more and more important. Okay, to give you a quick answer to that question, how many computers are in this classroom right now? I'll give you.
More than one. Do cell phones count?
Okay, well that's a good question. What is this? Okay, I'll tell you what it is. It's an Android smartphone. It's a T-Mobile Samsung Blaze. Okay, so that's the name and the model number of this thing. But exactly what is it? It's a mobile device. Okay, that's a very good description. But I would describe it as a miniature computer pretending to be a phone. That's basically what it is, because I use it as a phone less frequently than anything else. Okay, I don't even use it as a phone once a day. Okay, I use it maybe twice a week or 3 times a week at the most. So what do I use it for? Why do I bring it with me?
Emails, text messages, browsers.
Yep, apps of all kinds, right? Okay, well, what type of apps can I write on my cell phone, as opposed to what type of programs can I write on a desktop computer? Okay, very much the same, except this has more possibilities. Okay, it has far more possibilities for several factors. One, it has many devices on it, built in, that is not available, or you have to buy some additional stuff to add to a desktop computer. GPS built in, microphone built in, speaker built in, cameras, 2 cameras built in, right? Touchscreen built in. Okay, that's one factor. The second factor is I cannot haul that thing around with me all the time, right? This I can bring with me. It stays with me all the time. Okay, and that's why there are many programs that I can program and use it here that would not be a good idea on a desktop computer, even if I can make the equipment work with a desktop computer. Okay, so as a parting thought, I just want to go ahead.
I was just asking, do you want us to read this before the class?
Yeah, if it is possible, go ahead and read it ahead of me, because we'll talk about it on Thursday. So that's why if you read it ahead of me, then you know what I'm going to talk about. Then we can actually talk about and have discussions of those particular topics, instead of having us to look at it the first time and go like, oh, okay, we haven't seen this before. Okay, but just to give you one last thought, why this is far more flexible compared to that. Okay, think about a pedometer application. What is a pedometer?
Knows how many steps you take.
Yeah, okay. So I'm pretty sure I can write an app that runs on a desktop computer, but then I'll have to haul that thing with me to measure how many steps I have taken, right? But this, it's okay. I mean, I have it, I carry it with me all the time. So that's why, this is the future. That is going to go away soon. Okay. Yep.
Which sections do you need?
Read the whole thing. I mean, as far as you can. Yeah, we will be able to cover all of that on Thursday. All right. So I'll see you guys on Thursday, and thanks for coming to this class.
For the homework assignment, it was do the student acknowledgement,
Yep.
and then also the topic 1,
Yep.
like the whole topic. Right?
Yeah, because topic 1 doesn't have anything that's really technical, so read as much as you can. Okay.
Okay, and that's what that is that you were showing us?
Correct. Yes.
Thank you.